the very core of community development is the idea that everyone has value, dignity, and the right to dream. At the Desai Foundation, we believe if you have health and opportunity to grow, you have the capacity to dream and live beyond your circumstances. Our mission is to empower women and children through community programming to elevate health and livelihood in the communities we serve and beyond.
Welcome to Chai with Manju. Our special guest today is a well-known community leader, entrepreneur, and a philanthropist. He's also the founder of Desai Foundation, which has made enormous contributions in our neck of the woods and in his native Gujarat. Let us meet Mr. Samir Desai. Samir, welcome.
Thank you, Manju, and I really appreciate you inviting me and for your kind introduction.
Okay, thank you so much. So, people know you with all your big contributions, but I want to start with the journey that began in a very small town of Valsad in Gujarat. And I read that your dad had a transferable job, so you pretty much grew in a small village with your maternal grandparents. So tell us how that early life in a small village influenced you to become who you are today.
Well, thank you. Actually, it was the name of the town is Untradi, which is near Valsad.
Okay.
It was a very, very small town of 2,000 people with no electricity, no paved roads, no schools, no anything that we take it for granted today, which is playground, library, computers, the telephone, or any of those facilities.
Wow.
But my grandparents happened to be the leaders, and they had an empathy towards people, and they were really had a great way of treating people and helping them.
Okay.
And that created my school of education for public service.
Wonderful. And your dad passed away at 19, so you kind of became the head of your own family too, right?
Yeah, actually that came a little bit later because when I was in 19-year-old and then was in college in third year, and he suddenly died, and I inherited family, 2 sisters and a brother and a dog and a mother that I didn't know very well.
Okay.
So that's how it happened. And then I think that actually, along with my training from village, is actually have formed the basis of my life.
And I read somewhere, which I found very interesting, that in the evening you would have conversations with your family, and that kind of build some foundations for your conversations you had later on in your life with your organization.
Well, the two parts to that conversation. One is in my grandparents, everybody loved them for their advice. So they were always out. There was always line of people coming every morning, and they would be waiting to come and ask for advice. So my job at that time, as a almost 4-year, 5 or 6-year-old kid, was to bring water, tea, and all that. But at the same time, they expected me to sit there.
Okay.
Now, I understand that I may not have understood the totality of conversation. However, I believe that at that time it created an empathetical viewpoint of people.
Right.
At the same time, I think it enabled us perhaps to relate to individuals and their issues. And when my father died, I used all that leadership relating to individuals training to work with my family to sit every evening and say, what do you have to do today, tomorrow, and the after?
Okay.
And we have to keep going. We can't keep looking at the past. And that became also my ground for training.
Going back to what we talked about a little bit before, you've done your bachelor's in engineering in mechanical engineering from University of Baroda, then MS in industrial engineering from Illinois Institute of Technology, and then which led you all to creating SRC, which is the System Resources Corporation in 1985. right? Any lessons that you learned along the way that you would like to share with our audience?
Well, yes, I think along the way from childhood through that, to be honest, I had 2, 3 lessons. One is that always deal with the cards given to you and make best use of them. And I think best example is Slumdog Millionaire, if you really look at that as an example. And then also I think use your resources, because you're never going to have enough resources, so you should use them wisely and as if you're going to need also tomorrow, same resource. And by doing that, you live not beyond your means, either in your personal life or in business life. And that create the third part, which is that you make decisions and make them successful rather than saying that you make successful decisions.
Okay, I like that. And you're a great believer in Murphy's Law too, right?
Very much so. I always feel that everything is going to go wrong. And I plan for it. So part of the reason is that I think I never had a chance to fail, to be honest. My grandfather wouldn't allow me to fail because his expectations were that you shouldn't fail. And even though his mission were smaller at that time, they say you must be able to come back with success. So he would send me back every time. Then what happened with when my father died, I had no choice but to succeed with the family, supporting it, finding a home for us. And then I came to United States during that college that you just described at IIT. I landed there at the most violent or the turbulent time of Chicago history of '68. I had a one-way ticket. When I graduated, I couldn't find a job for almost 3 months. There was a recession in anything that related to my engineering, and then I found a job in fortran programming, which I had no background in. And then you can see that was the card given to me. And I said, I can't fail on this one because what am I going to, I can't go back. And hence what I did is that I said, I have to succeed. So now you know the rest of the history, as they say. I'm an IT guy. I started companies in IT, and I've been in those kind of businesses all the time.
And amazing. What I really liked about SRC was that from the way you founded, you eventually had 600 employees, 75 million revenues, and you never took there were no venture capitalists, no debts. So that's a huge achievement in itself.
Thank you, appreciate that. Yeah. And we are very proud of that, I think.
Yes,
maybe part of the reason is that nobody gave me the money. and nobody wanted to loan me money. And more importantly, maybe I thought that I did all these things myself. Why can I do this?
Right. And I think that's why, and we'll come to that, how you have nurtured so many entrepreneurs since then. So that brings me to a very important part of our interview. I heard that it was during a family vacation in Peru that the idea of Desai Family Foundation came up in 1997, and then you founded that with your wife, beautiful wife, Nilima Desai. And before I talk about the foundation, I have to talk about Nilima because I'm a big fan of your beautiful wife. How did you meet her?
Well, actually, I was in India in '72, and I was in charge of me because I'm the head of the family. So I was looking for girls to marry. 2 weeks before I was leaving, somebody came to my home from Africa and said, "Hey, are you ready to marry?" And I said, "Yeah, but I didn't like anybody, so I'm okay." So then he said, "I'm going to introduce somebody." So that happens to be Nilima. And then we met, and then I postponed my trip for a little bit. And then we went out for a couple of times, and actually that's how we met. And then that was my two datings, if you will, and then got married, and I think happily ever after. So.
And she's also a big fan of art, like your 2 daughters, Mohan and Meera. And do you think that family interest in art and culture led you towards the Sensational India program that you really supported for Peabody Essex Museum?
Yeah, actually, if you go back since when we got married in 1972, we were in Norwood. So at that time we went into social service through JC.
Okay.
I was a treasurer, vice president of that. And after that, we were also participating tremendously originally in IIGB, then Patidar Samaj, and then Gurjar, and the Sishu Bharti. And because we had a deep history, we felt that we should be promoting history, culture, and heritage of India. And don't forget, at that time there was a need. You brought up, we started the foundation.
Right.
The way it happened is that we were up vacationing there, and we were sitting around. We said we have done well, and we as a family have done a lot in art, culture, promoting democracy, civic duties, and religion, and livelihood, and all that. How can we reorganize and organize in a nice way? So, and we want to give more, and by doing that, that become our second careers. And so, Nilima wanted to do art and culture. Moha wanted to do the health, because that's her interest.
Yes, that's her.
And Megha mentioned community because she was the youngest. And then I said, okay, let's form a Desai Family Foundation. So we even did it much before I sold the company. So.
And then in 2014, it became a public foundation, and the focus shifted from cultural programs and other things to empowering women and children, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So I think initial, when we formed the foundation as a family foundation, we had health, education, and Indian culture.
Right.
Then we moved from there to the community development in 2003 in India, and that became another major push in India. And in 2011, we had created a major model that is at Uttadi, where Santaben Vidya Bhavan, which we are using as a model, which does only livelihood, education, and health. And we use holistic approach to the community development. We have something unique in our case, which is that we don't do just one item, hunger or health or cancer. We think that only way you can uplift the community is through holistic approach, where everyone is empowered to do something on their own. Our job is actually to make sure that we go out of our profession or a job of philanthropy every passing year.
Right. And you're making people independent.
Very much so, very much so.
Important.
And then I think in 2014, we were deciding that our demand is growing and what we should be doing. And hence we became public so that we can accept grants and we apply, we can also raise a lot more money.
And your Lotus Festival is very popular.
Yes, that's what we are lucky that people seem to be liking, not only how we do it, the event itself, but also the causes.
And I like that you have kind of been inspired by the CI Community Impact Program at Columbia, where your daughters were, and you've done partnership with IIT in Gandhinagar as well, which has benefited the local population enormously, right?
Yeah, I think we were always promoting students and young youth participation in philanthropy and social responsibility. And I think in India, we thought that that was not happening. And then we were lucky enough to meet IIT Gandhinagar CEO, and he had the similar interest. And they were doing something. So I said, let's join hands to do that. So now we have a fantastic campus. They have done a fantastic job in helping 10 villages around that, which is a population of about 10, 15,000. And we do 10, 20 projects. But not only that, now we have created entrepreneurship program. We have created career development program. We have several new livelihood programs developed with them, and their students are participating. So now we have right now expanding that with a couple of colleges here in Massachusetts, as well as we want to do it in 2 or 3 places in India right now.
And even the vocational training classes, and then for women, I think nowadays all these movies are promoting, but you actually started the sanitary napkin program long time ago, right?
Yeah, it's almost, we started maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And to be giving credit to local folks, I think it was their idea, believe it or not, from one center. They brought up the idea, and I said, yeah, that's a great idea, let's just do it. Now I think we are at a stage where we really believe that in less than 2 years, every center can become independent production center to a level that it will run by itself. And more importantly, we want to reach 1 million women with sanitary napkin.
That's wonderful.
And we would open, and this is an invitation to everybody, that we are willing to do this anywhere in India, any state.
I mean, it's so good because I remember there were times that girls, when they were 12 or 13, couldn't go to school because of this issue. So it's really wonderful. And now your daughter Megha is the president. And what I like is she's also getting all the roots and everything from you, and she's bringing a lot of second generation flavor to it as well. So that's been very exciting. She's also partnered with Miss Single, a big fashion designer, right? And making a lot of difference in New York as well. What do you think have been her contributions?
Well, every family member has its own contribution in our case, and I think there are many others who have made us successful. Megha was always a lot more into it, and I think Megha's heart always was there, even though she was running a successful company on her own. And then we agreed to do this full time. So we may be one of the first foundation which started a long time ago, which is 97. We may be the first one to do India-US service in both parts. We may be the first one to do a clear way where we believe in holistic approach. And then we are also perhaps the only one who went from family foundation to the public foundation to the second generation leadership, and a transition being in the process. And we had a lovely time. Megha and I have been speaking as a 2 generation of speakers at 2-3 locations recently. And I think it was you can see the differences between two of us at the same time. We can work together.
Similarities too, right. What is your vision for future?
We would love to have our foundation do better, bigger. When I say bigger, better things. And I think if we can change one community at a time. And this is where the challenge is that I can give out to a lot of people. There are 3 million Indians plus minus in this country. And if we take 10,000 people community, every family takes 10,000 people community and uplift holistically, I think we may have gotten rid of a lot of problems automatically.
That is so
and I think that is how it should be done. Onesies and twosies ultimately help, but it doesn't help the enabling part.
That's a great vision. Well, on October 26th, it's going to be actually a double celebration for you at New England Choice Awards, because not only you are the recipient of our Philanthropy Award, but an organization that you helped found, Thai Boston, is also getting the Best Organization Award.
Very much so.
So it's a double celebration for you, and we look forward to honoring you then. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm so proud of my father, Sam Desai, on winning the Philanthropist of the Year award this year. My father has been a part of civic service his whole life. I know that a lot of you have seen it just now with the Desai Foundation, but he has been giving back since the minute he stepped foot in America, and actually even before, when he was building his own school to go to high school in the small village he grew up in. I love you so much, and keep fighting the good fight.
So Sam Desai, I've known him for many years, and I always talk to him and I tell him that he has really transformed himself, applying his business skills into helping others, and I call it power of impact, and he has done an amazing job doing that.
Sam Desai, the energy and drive that he brings into this all year long, he goes to the point where he almost loses his voice. He makes so many phone calls, he talks to so many people, and it's so clear that this is much more than just a labor of love for him. It's a cause that he embraced many years ago and continues to support with the same drive and energy that he had years back.